Sloth Talk. Hey!
Okay. Woo! Whoa! Calm down. Okay. Welcome back, everybody, to Sloth Talk. I'm Ryan.
I'm Connor.
And happy Theology Thursday. So we're going to play a little game. And Connor is going to be the participant of this game. I'm going to read Connor a quote. And he has to guess where the quote is from. And there's two options. Either the quote comes from the movie Doctor Strange, which we will talk about today, or it comes from some kind of Eastern religious sacred text. Now you don't have to guess which text it is, but you have to. But
basically, just whether it's Doctor Strange or not.
Okay.
Now I gotta say, I feel pretty confident about this. I know my Marvel movies.
First quote: "All that we are is the result of what we have thought. It is founded on our thoughts. It is made up of our thoughts."
That's really good because that sounds like something they'd say in Doctor Strange. But I'm going to go ahead and go with Eastern religious text.
You are correct.
Yes! That was a good one. That was hard.
Next quote: "Time is the true enemy of us all. Time kills everything."
Doctor Strange.
Correct. "At the root of existence, mind and matter meet. Thoughts shape reality."
All of Doctor Strange is about using your mind to shape reality, but that's not from Doctor Strange, though.
So is that your final answer?
Yeah, the Eastern religious text.
You are incorrect.
What? That's from Doctor
It
Strange?
comes from Doctor Strange.
Oh.
It comes. The person who said it was the ancient one, the bald lady. All
You
right.
got me. This is actually harder than I thought it was going to be.
Next quote: "There is a realm where there is neither solid nor the fluid, neither heat nor motion, neither this world nor any other world."
Doctor Strange.
Incorrect.
What?
Ancient Eastern text.
Wow, that's shocking.
It comes from the Four Great Truths. You cannot beat a river into submission. You have to surrender to its current and
Doctor
use
Strange,
its.
ancient one.
Well, that is true, but it wasn't the ancient one who said it. It was Master Hamir. So I'll give you. A point
That's
for
okay.
That. Yeah.
I still, it was from Doctor Strange.
All right. Next quote. Is this the last quote? Yeah, this is the last quote.
Okay.
"There is truth in the stone, for the stone is here, and no power in the world, no god, no man, no demon can destroy its existence."
So you're trying to trip me up with that one because there is an Infinity Stone in Doctor Strange, the
There
Time
is.
Stone, the Eye of
Yes, there
Agamotto,
is.
but that's not from Doctor Strange.
You are correct.
Yeah, you almost got me with that one.
I thought that would
was-
get you because they talked about the
No,
stone.
it was the two in between. Those were tough. The one about the realms got me.
Yeah, you got two wrong.
Okay. I feel like that's okay. I think I did.
Yeah, you did pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how well you were going to do. Okay, so if you haven't figured out, we are going to talk about Doctor Strange. And you may be asking, what does this have to do with theology? Well, it actually has a lot to do with theology. So we're going to talk about it, and we're going to analyze Doctor Strange from a Christian worldview. So when you think about Marvel, the Avengers, and that whole cinematic universe, you don't really think about religion. But there's a few subtle hints here and there that allude to religious ideas that some of the characters hold. For example, Captain America, in the first Avengers movie, he meets Thor for the first time, and they're in the helicopter, or whatever it is, and then Thor jumps off. And then, what's her name? Black Widow says, that's a god, right? And then Captain America says...
There's only one god, man. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that.
Then we have Thor. So Thor's pretty blatant about this. I'm pretty sure he says in multiple movies that I think he identifies himself as a god. Would you agree with that?
No, because he argues with Loki that they're not gods over the people of Earth.
Okay, so Thor doesn't say that, but Loki says that he's a god. Yes, and actually we see that in the first Avengers movie also.
Right.
When he is facing off with the Hulk, and he's like, "Why do you disrespect me like this? I'm a god." And then we get to people like Tony Stark and Hulk, Bruce Banner. It doesn't really allude to kind of what they believe, but I would guess that they kind of have a more naturalistic worldview, probably. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I see in this universe, I see a clash of worldviews, and everybody has a worldview, whether you know it or not. And this is very true in Doctor Strange. So we start off the movie with Doctor Strange, and he's a surgeon, and he makes it very clear what his worldview is, and I would say he holds to a naturalistic worldview.
I do not believe in fairy tales about chakras or energy or the power of belief. There is no such thing as spirit. We are made of matter and nothing more. You're just another tiny, momentary speck within an indifferent universe.
So you see here that Doctor Strange, he is very firm in his worldview. He holds to a very naturalistic worldview. And if you don't know what a naturalist worldview is, it's a worldview that holds that God does not exist and that everything in the universe that we have is natural material. So he does not have belief in a God, very atheistic from the start. And so through this movie, we see a clash of his worldview with this Eastern worldview that we see held by the Ancient One and her followers. Mm-hmm. And we don't really see what exactly the details of that. Like, we have to ask the question, like, what exactly is it? What religion are they following? Because it has this cult feel.
Well, and it's a very interesting question, and we see, I mean, like, the text you showed me trying to trip me up with, like, because it sounds very similar to ancient Eastern religions, a lot of the stuff they're talking about. So you can kind of tell they pull inspiration from a lot of different existing religions, but it's not a real religion that they actually follow. And the director even says, but the director did talk about in an interview how he was very intentional about there not being any specific religion in the movie, because that wasn't the point of the movie, was to try and get people to believe in a certain religion. It was just about the idea of faith in general.
Right. But I would still say it's very obvious that what these people are following is a collection of teachings from various religions of Eastern origin. I'll read a quote. So, Doctor Strange, in this scene, he's battling Caecilius. I think that's his name.
Yes.
And I guess Doctor Strange, he captures Caecilius. He holds him in that little spine thing.
Yeah.
And he's talking to him. And Caecilius says something to Doctor Strange, and I'll read it. People think in terms of good and evil, but really, time is the true enemy of us all. Time kills everything. What about the people you killed? Get ready for this. Tiny, momentary specks within an indifferent universe. So when Caecilius is talking to Doctor Strange, he's taking Doctor Strange's worldview and flipping it on its butt. Caecilius is demonstrating to Doctor Strange that the naturalist worldview that you hold, you're living inconsistent with it. Because you're out here trying to fight good and evil, but really, there's no such thing as good and evil in a naturalist worldview.
And it justifies murder and
and it justifies
things.
Murder and all these other things. So really, in this moment, and obviously in the movie, we basically see the conversion of Doctor Strange from naturalism to impersonal supernaturalism, and whatever that would be. But in that moment, Doctor Strange kind of has to think to himself, what do I really believe? Do I believe that we are all tiny specks of dust in the universe, or are we something more? And that's the problem with the naturalist worldview, is that that's all we are, is tiny specks of dust in the universe, and that gets rid of what is right and wrong. So, I don't know, that's pretty cool, right, I guess?
Yeah, that's interesting.
So Caecilius is breaking down Doctor Strange's worldview.
Well, and I love that whole conversation and that scene. I thought it was very well written, well acted, and something weighty for a superhero movie to actually really ask these really thought-provoking questions. And I think Doctor Strange is actually a very powerful movie, which you don't always get with superhero movies. A lot of times it's just fun, but with this, it had a little bit of weight to it.
And we could take, there's a message for us Christians here in this. The question that we have to ask ourselves is, are we going to be consistent with our worldviews? Doctor Strange had to confront it. Is he going to be consistent with naturalism and just go ahead and believe that there's no such thing as good and evil, and that really what he's not fighting for anything? Or is he actually going to believe that there's something more in humans? And we have to ask ourselves, as Christians, are we going to be consistent with Christianity? Are we going to act like Christians? So I think that's a big takeaway from the movie if you dig a little deep on that.
One thought that I have about the movie that's really interesting is you said it kind of shows his conversion from naturalism to an impersonal supernaturalism. But one thing that I think is interesting while we're talking about all this is the director, Scott Derrickson, is actually a Christian. He's open about that, and he actually went and studied theology for a while when he was going to school. And in my opinion, the morals in Doctor Strange do line up, and some of the morals that are put forth in the movie do line up with the Christian worldview.
Sure. Yeah.
Ultimately, the big lesson that he has to learn is when the Ancient One, before she dies, tells him, it's not about you. She says, she kind of boils all of this, you got all this like sorcerers and all this kind of stuff, and she says, it's not about you. And it's really about him becoming humble. And the idea that to be a naturalist, to refuse the idea of anything beyond ourselves, any higher power, is rooted in pride.
Right.
And it took him becoming humble to believe in that.
Yes.
And that's part of the Christian's journey into faith, I think, as well.
Yeah,
for us
definitely.
to surrender to God's will requires a lot of humility, which we're not prone to. And it's our pride that makes us resist that. So, for Scott Derrickson, as a believer, is it okay for him to take a comic book and kind of take the source material that has this stuff that's inspired from ancient Eastern religions and just kind of make a fantasy story that doesn't explicitly put forth any religion and just kind of is fantasy or fiction if you look at it that way, and use that as an analogy for just kind of the overall morals of the Christian faith?
You know, I think it is okay. I think that any kind of story that has this redemptive arc of somebody going through some kind of trouble and then humbling themselves, or any kind of fight of good versus evil, generally, I think it's okay for a Christian to promote. So basically all we've done today is just kind of give you a taste for what we want to do with Theology Thursday, is kind of interpret what the media, what popular culture gives to us and interpret it through a Christian worldview. And like we said before, we're perfectly okay with this movie. We enjoyed it, the director's a Christian, and that's perfectly fine. But still, there is a worldview that's propagated in this movie, and I think that it's important to understand what that worldview is and how it breaks down.
Yes, and I think it's good to go in with discernment, knowing and trying to kind of analyze what's the overall point.
Right.
And I think once you get to the conclusion of what's the point of this movie, again, I think it's just a message about faith in general. Tomorrow we're going to have a new episode of Film Friday, where I tried to convince Ryan to watch some of my favorite animated movies of all time. So be sure to check that out, and subscribe, like, comment. What are your thoughts? You can tweet us at SlothTalkOff. You should
Is that 2 F's or 1 F?
It's 2 F's. We couldn't fit official. Is it Freddy the Sloth for Snapchat?
I'm pretty sure it is. I'm going to have to double check that. So if it's not, then you don't get to Snapchat us.
And Sloth Talk Official on Instagram and Facebook. So connect with us. Engage in the conversation. We'd love to get your opinion too. We want this. I think especially Theology Thursday opens up a door for it to be really interactive.
Yeah, and like we said before, you're more than welcome to criticize us. If you have any points that we messed up on, feel free to let us know. We're not necessarily scholarly apologists or theologians. We're just teenagers.
Sloth Talk. Hey!